You've joined us in Starting Up. Now, most investors invest in as many as 5 to 10 startups a year, but here's somebody who invests in over 100. We're talking about Dave McClure, who, of course, recently brought to India the Geeks on a Plane contingent, some of the smartest startup techies from across the world. Sudhir Syal caught up with the man for this exclusive chat.
Yes, someone who has certainly turned a lot of heads in the early age ecosystem in America is super angel Dave McClure. Founder of 500 Startups, which has innovated with a disruptive mechanism of investing in over 100 companies every year. He visited India recently with his geeks, mentors, startups and entrepreneurs, all of whom are working on innovative technologies of their own. We caught up with him at the Direct Eye Geeks on a Plane Summit and started the interview by asking him about the disruptive 500 Startups model of investing.
So what we're really trying to do is similar to kind of taking the lean startup model to the venture capital business. So we intend to make a lot of small investments. We realize there's going to be a high fail rate for those businesses, but the capital efficiency allows us to do a lot more small experiments than we ever used to before. And then once some percentage of those investments start working, then we continue to invest more in those companies.
Shiva, Dave, is it fair to say that the new model is spray and pray?
Well, I would say it's spray, but not pray.
Okay. So is there a science behind investing in 300 companies in 1 year?
I think so, because a lot of people tend to, sort of suggest that what we do is basically the equivalent of gambling, and I really think that's not true at all.
So there's a science behind it?
Yeah, in fact,
and what would that science be?
Well, so when we look at companies, we're really trying to get them through 3 stages, product, market, and revenue. We might, have a very high fail rate of anywhere from 60 to 80% of those companies. But let's say that we start with 100 investments. As they're building out product and being successful, maybe 30 of the companies are successful getting to some level of product functionality and get to the next level of funding. Of those 30, then maybe let's say half are successful in getting some amount of customer adoption. So now we're down to 15. And then let's say of those 15, maybe anywhere from 5 to 10 get to revenue at some scale. So now out of 100 initial companies, we've really come down to 5 or 10 companies that are really the ones that are working and hopefully generating revenue. And that's actually a manageable number.
Okay.
Now let's contrast that with typical large venture investing where they might make only 1 or 2 investments per year. They might only make...
So let's assume they make, say, 8 investments a year.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a partnership they might, but let's say for the lifetime of the fund, they're probably going to make 30 investments. Now, in our case, our goals are really anywhere from $25 to $250 million sort of stories or exits. I think for larger VCs, they're really aiming for $1 billion or better companies. So, making 30 investments and having to find 3 to 5, $1 billion better stories, that's a very, very difficult story. Sure. So I think that a lot of cases what we do is, commonly referred to as, spray and pray, but what we would really call it is a method for quantitative and scalable investing where we are being more efficient about how capital is being deployed.
Sure. So Dave, what are some of the factors in your opinion that have contributed to this new model where you invest in many more companies?
Starting about 10 years ago, a substantial reduction in cost in building internet businesses, or at least let's say, web and mobile businesses. So it used to be 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, you paid for servers, you paid for a large amount of enterprise licensed software, had to pay a lot of money for bandwidth. Those things are really starting to change where most all those things are in the cloud. A lot of them are free or using open source software, and so we don't really buy servers, we buy bandwidth maybe a little bit, and a lot of our software is free. So most of the remaining cost is really headcount. The second trend is really starting about 5 years ago. We've had the advent of lots and lots of major online platforms for customer acquisition. So not just Google for search, but Facebook and Twitter for social, maybe LinkedIn for professional networks. We've got Apple and Android for mobile devices. We have YouTube for video.
You folks have sort of seen a sweet spot at between 50 and 100K.
Yeah.
Any particular reasons for that amount?
We really think that the $50,000 to $100,000 is enough money for people to get a set of experiments. Maybe it's anywhere from 12 to 24 person months. Enough time for a team of 2 or 3 to really prove out a set of experiments.
Where did the 500 startups idea really come from? Was it an idea or was it something that just happened?
Well, I think it was very organic, and it was based on my understanding of how I started doing angel investing, and then how I started doing some professional investing when I was at Founders Fund. When I first left PayPal, I didn't have a lot of money. I put about $300,000 into 12 companies over a period of maybe 4 years. I was still making a lot of mistakes, but learning, and happened to have one, relatively good exit in Mint.com. But what I found was that it really takes a long time, and you probably need a portfolio approach to investing.
The big question is Dave plans to invest in 500 startups. He's already invested in over 200 of them, or at least the fund has, right?
Yes.
So how does Dave have the bandwidth to manage over 200 companies? Is he Superman?
Well, I'd like to think I'm Superman, but actually we're a team, so it's
how
not
does it
just
work
me.
exactly? How does the model work?
Well, we have a team of about 10 people that are doing various functions in the fund. Probably about 4 of us are managing investments. We also do many other things, but we're able to split up the time between the companies that we work with. And really, again, I think we're spending more time with the companies that progress further,
right,
down that success path.
Right. Is it an incubator model built in as well? Because it's sort of
yes,
loose. It's a loose model where you either have incubation or no incubation.
Well,
right?
we do a little bit of both. So
right,
we both run an incubator and we have a seed fund.
Sure.
So we do about 25 to 30 companies 3 times a year through our own program.
And how many months is that?
It's typically a 4-month program. We run a demo day at the end of that where we try and introduce those companies.
And then they move out of the area.
And hopefully, if they're successful in getting those, then they probably pop out, start their own little office or something.
What is Dave McClure's thinking behind investing in Asia?
Well, I think that we've probably done about 10% of our portfolio outside the U.S., maybe even 20% that's incorporated in the U.S. but has some international connection. Right. Our general views are there's talent spread all over the world. There's definitely developing markets all over the world. And in many cases, the prices we have to pay to invest in those companies are lower in some of those markets than we would pay in Silicon Valley.
Sure.
So we think there's a lot of a lot of value there, opportunities to sort of invest in new markets that are still developing, and maybe some opportunity to take models that we see working in the U.S. and bring them over to those markets.
Hey Dave, you spent some time in India as well, and you also made some investments here. Why don't you take us through some investments
Sure.
here and what your thoughts are on the Indian product ecosystem?
Well, I think we're very bullish on India, particularly after seeing it up close now for a few days.
Right.
I've been a personal investor in SlideShare in Delhi, known the founders for about 3 or 4 years. We've also been recent investors in a company called MyGola out of Bangalore that's a Q&A-based travel site.
What are your thoughts on the Indian product ecosystem? You think there's something happening here? Because one big advantage in America is there's this middle layer in terms of an M&A market, which makes it easier for smaller companies to get acquired and so on. Where in India, we're still looking for the ecosystem to build. So the M&A exits that happen at a much higher level. What are some of the other fundamental differences you see between here and the Valley?
Well, I think if you look out over the horizon the next 2 to 5 years, I think you will see more exits happening, both at large and small scale. I think you have a tremendously talented workforce here that's got a lot of engineering resources. Probably areas they do need, more training and more education is in design and usability,
Sure.
possibly in product management or marketing.
Right.
So those are areas I think, where we might be able to help with, either bringing some of those folks here or, helping teach and educate the companies about what those resources could be. Probably the most critical resource is capital and angel investors. And I think, as much as people complain about the talent being the issue, I don't really think that's the issue. I think it's usually the propensity of angel investors or seed funds to put money to work.
Dave, another big development in America and something that you're very closely involved with is Naval Ravikant's AngelList, right?
Yes.
And he's set up something massive, which has sort of become like a LinkedIn for startups, or it's sort of become a place where the entire community comes together. What are your thoughts on AngelList, and how much value does it add to your day-to-day life?
Well, I think it adds a tremendous amount of value to us. We're probably one of the most active investors in using AngelList right now. In fact, I think we're probably the #1 most active. We started early. I mean, Naval gave me a call and let me know that he was getting this started and asked us to participate. And we were, pretty tentative at first, but I said we've been, very passionate, enthusiastic more recently. He's really built a tremendous community. He started out doing venture hacks as really education for entrepreneurs. Now he's built a resource for both entrepreneurs and investors. And I would say, we've probably done at least 50, if not 60 or more deals through AngelList in one way or another.
Dave, just closing off, you've been involved with multiple startup success stories, and you have a number of companies in your portfolio.
Yep.
So and what's the exact number? What's the exact number you're at right now?
I think right now it's probably about 243.
So of the 243, Dave, if you were to pick 3 or pick 5, what would they be?
Well, as I like to say, all of my children are beautiful.
Absolutely, but Dave's favorites.
Some are a little bit more beautiful than others.
Sure.
Definitely, I would say Twilio for voice and SMS platforms. Probably Wildfire Interactive, which does social marketing campaigns for agencies and brands and even Facebook themselves. Maybe SendGrid, which does email deliverability and really is in use by a wide variety of both enterprise companies and startups.
Dave, number of entrepreneurs watching this show, and you've sort of been the catalyst for a number of startups in America. If you had one message for all the entrepreneurs in India looking to start up and waiting to take that final step, what would that advice be?
Well, I think really focusing on customer and a problem. So don't get too stuck on our geeky technology. I mean, we know technology is fun and that's great, but I think the opportunities to use technology for the benefit of society and to really help make people's lives better.
In fact, apart from MyGola, Dave is also keen to invest in about 5 to 6 startups here in India every year. And of course, you can be sure we'll be keeping a close watch on things. Let's take a breather here on the show, but coming up. Be it logistics or search, there are a number of e-commerce enablers looking to cash in on this sector. We explore the trend.